Those online, can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, great.
I can also.
Okay, wonderful. All right, and I have the time as 5 o'clock. John, if you're...
You can call the meeting to order.
Yep.
And we're here today to have a public hearing on a Coleman setback. An applicant initiated variance request for section 704.03, which is, again, setbacks and doing with zoning, having to do with zoning regulations. So I declare the meeting open. And do I have any comments from anybody else at this point?
What, are you asking for comments?
Yes.
I was given this form and I put everything down on there, didn't you?
Well, this is the call to the public, and then he's going to do the rules of the board.
Oh, so
But
this-
so, yeah, this is a specific agenda.
Obviously, we don't
Yeah.
have anybody here from the public. And do you have any comments? No, sir. Okay.
And if you want to go ahead and just read the ground rules for the meeting record.
Okay, the ground rules for the few ground rules. Please turn off cell phones or at least silent ringers. Please be polite to other stakeholders. No applause or booing, no cheering. If you desire to speak, fill out a speak request form near the door at the room and submit it to the planner before the start of the meeting. Note, this is not required for docket applicants. Okay, addressing the board. Speakers must use microphone to capture comments in the minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. We have a speaker's clock and have the time limit and have time limits. 5 minutes for call to the public, 10 minutes for applicant statements, 5 minutes for supporters or those opposed, and 5 minutes for applicant rebuttal. Each elected county supervisor appoints one board of adjustment member who is a resident of their supervising or supervisorial district to serve a 4-year term. A board member service is pro bono. A quorum is 2 commissioners. A majority vote passes a motion. Do we have a quorum? Various dockets are approved by the board. Any person aggrieved by decision of the board of adjustment may at any time within 30 calendar days of such decision appeal to the Superior Court, and the matter shall be heard in like manner as appeals from courts of justice of the peace.
And I think that brings us to our first docket.
Are we doing the Coleman setback first?
Which one first?
Coleman setback variance 2304.
Okay. First one is Coleman setbacks and applicants initiated variance requests to section 704.03 setback principles and accessory structures / uses of the zoning regulations, and click to view. Okay. The applicant, Mrs. Moreno, that you met?
You couldn't read
It's-
no,
I'm here.
neither of them are here.
Yeah, I do believe
They're online.
both our applicants are online with us
Oh,
tonight.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, they won't be here?
No, they're
They're
listening.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was an option. Okay.
Ms. Moreno requests a reduction in the required setbacks for an accessory structure in a residential zoning district. In residential zoning, all accessory structures must be no less than 20 feet from all property boundaries. The applicant requests a variance to lawfully retain a 308 SF, whatever that means, shed, which has been constructed in the setback. The subject's property is located at 2415 South Coleman, Bisbee, Arizona, APN 102-39-158A. The granting of a variance is subject to approval from the Cochise County Board of Adjustment. If the board approves the docket, the applicant must obtain a building permit and a floodplain use permit to retain the structure in its current location.
Okay, and if you wish, I'll go through the presentation now. As you just stated, this is variance 2304 Coleman setback. The location is at 2415 South Coleman Street, APN 10239-158A. Our applicant is Myra Moreno, who is online with us tonight. And as you can see, it's just around the Bisbee area. So the variance request for those of you online, if we're pausing for a moment.
Does every party who's involved in a docket have a copy of everything, everybody?
Okay, for the record, I want to state it is
Okay.
5:06, and our chair, Clint Messino, Paul Brick has entered, and now we have a full quorum present. And do you want to continue the meeting, or?
Yeah, I've never done this, so
Uh-huh.
I just assumed that every place that's a party to this was received a form where you fill out whether you're for it or against it and why.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to find out, do each of the parties have a copy of each of the filled out forms?
If I received anything in writing, it's been attached to the agenda, and they have it digitally right now. They can view any responses that I've received to date.
I'm not sure I found the answer to what you said.
Okay.
Could you stop? Sorry.
Okay. Did you provide a written response to
Well,
one of the documents?
yes, this is just a copy.
Okay. If it was sent in to me,
Oh, sure.
then I have forwarded it to them, and they have been able to previously view it, as well as it's online with the agenda.
Okay.
So it is attached to the memo.
I
do
mean,
have
the
it.
other reason I asked is because the gentleman next to me said he's never seen it.
Okay. Well, it is, when we get to the agenda, it's under attachments, and I can show you where each of them are.
And it was sent out through email.
Yes.
No, I didn't see it.
And I can show you where those
What are we
are.
talking about here?
Okay, we are on docket number 1. This is Coleman setback. And we actually just got started. This is, if you look at the screen, it's at 2415 South Coleman Street in Bisbee, APN 10239-158A. The applicant is Myra Moreno. And this is for a setback reduction in R18 zoning. So the variance request is to permit an existing accessory building. This is the property right here, indicated by the hatch line. It's approximately 5 feet from the southeastern property line. I can't see my mouse, but it's in that very southeastern corner of the property. You can barely see it. So basically what the applicant is requesting is a 15-foot setback reduction. There's 20 feet required. She's 5 foot from it, so it'd be a 15-foot setback reduction. Here's the site plan. In the front of the property is the house. To the right, you see the carport, or you see the porch. Carport's to the rear. And then at the very back of the property, there's the existing slab with the new shed on top of it. And she's also indicated where some block walls are, as well as property lines and dimensions. There are 8 factors we use to evaluate all variance proposals. As submitted, the application complies with 5 factors. It is a permitted uses. I went out there to actually view the property. I didn't see it as having severe adverse impacts to surrounding property just by driving around. I'll get into this a little bit more in a future slide. There is general harmony with the zoning regulations. There's no violation of state or federal law. In terms of degree of relief, it's an existing structure. So it's either allowed by variance or they got to take it out. So in terms of degrees of relief, this is pretty much it. In terms of not compliance, the hardship was not created by zoning. You know, the 20-foot applies to all accessory structures in R18 zoning. There really weren't any peculiar site conditions. And, you know, in a way, I know when the applicant will address you, it's one of those situations where there was an existing slab. And so a structure was put on top of it for convenience, and it seemed to make sense on the site. Here are some pictures of the actual site. This is the front of the property in the top left. You can see the block wall to the right. And really, I mean, it's tough to see from the street side because it's so far back and it's behind a block wall. The picture on the bottom left is from the property directly to the rear that adjoins it. And so that's where you can kind of see it.
What the procedure is, am I allowed to?
No, at this time, it's staff prep.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll let you know. This is the staff presentation time. Okay, in terms of neighborhood setbacks, I did provide, you know, showing where the houses are. This is kind of an older part of Cochise County. And what you see, you know, on the top right, there's actually a house where the property line's going through. There's a lot of houses, a lot of accessory structures right on property lines, really throughout. This is just a small section of it.
That's it. Looking at this picture here, there's several.
Yeah.
Right? Is that my understanding? Okay.
Yeah.
And where approximately is this located in Bisbee?
In Bisbee, we'll go back to here. It's kind of here.
It's Sunset Acres.
It's on, I'm sorry?
Sunset Acres.
It's
Yeah.
Sunset Acres.
From downtown, from Warren, from,
What
It's
district
in
would you consider this?
Sunset Acres.
Sunset Acres. Not.
tell me.
If you went up here to the stoplight, you got back up here on 92,
Mhm.
went to the stoplight, turned right, the road continues to Naco and one goes to the left,
Mhm.
that's Sunset Acres.
Okay, I know.
Yeah, so it's
It's pretty close to here, honestly. Yeah.
I know,
looking at a,
John.
okay, so yeah, looking at a map, I would say, it's south of here, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, just a little south. And again, it's the one on the bottom left where you can see probably the shed the best. And it is quite near to the property line. I did go on the neighbor's property and he actually went out with me. He was home at the time. He did say he would use the water for his garden.
Off the roof.
The
Yeah.
neighbor was going to use the water.
Yes. Okay. Again, this is the neighborhood aerial. Factors in favor of the request. So the variances request is consistent with 5 of the 8 criteria used by staff to help determine the suitability of a given request. So that's a majority. There are similar examples of setback encroachments throughout the neighborhood. There's even examples of homes split by property lines. Third, this area is designated as neighborhood conservation by the comp plan, but it seems to meet the description more appropriately of neighborhood revitalization, which is an area that shows potential need for revitalization. Or, I'm sorry, so neighborhood rehab, but shows potential for revitalization. The subject property is in excellent condition relative to surroundings. And the new owner has made improvements that should increase the property value and possibly that of the proximal property.
Want to sit here?
Well,
Or you could come right next to me.
Yes, and it is.
Yeah, we'll run this there.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll speak up. I'm sorry. Factors against approving the request. The variance request is not consistent with 3 of the 8 criteria used by staff to help determine the suitability of a given variance request. It's not an unnecessary hardship by zoning. Factor 1, there's no peculiar site conditions present. Factor 2, and this is in part a self-created hardship. Factor 3. And at this point, I'm going to pause for the applicant. This is when the applicant, Ms. Moreno, gets a chance to address the board. She is online. And what I have on the screen right now is kind of a bird's eye view. And Ms. Moreno, if you're ready, you have 10 minutes and feel free to make your presentation to the board.
Okay, thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, yeah, so my name is Mayra Moreno. I reside 2415 South Coleman Street in Bisbee. It's between Bisbee and Naco, off of Naco Highway. We purchased this home back in 2017. Since we've moved in, we've had 2 children. My son's 5 and my daughter is now 2. Both my boyfriend and I work full-time jobs. We're a 2-income household. We work to make improvements to our home to live comfortably and provide for our children. And we saw this slab that was existing as an opportunity, also a way to possibly save some money because it was already there to build this shed. This shed has and will not have any type of utility. It's taken us years to save up to have it constructed. Our intention was never to harm any of our neighbors or cause anyone any any grief. That wasn't our intention at all. Our parcels most of them are half acres. The residential structures are some over 100 feet apart. Our shed is hundreds of feet from each neighbor on each side. And like mentioned before, we do take pride in our home. Our yard is always cleaned. We've landscaped our property. We work Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends, to provide for our household. And this shed it's just a shell with the roof and a door. We're going to be using it for storage. As our family has grown, so has our totes with stuff that we store and sometimes stuff that I hoard. But that's something I'm working on. And again, it wasn't to mean anyone any harm or to upset anyone. And I don't see that it could bother anyone. And I think that wraps up my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
so now,
I couldn't hear most of that.
We will have a transcript available,
what?
a written transcript.
Oh,
that you
okay.
can hear after the meeting.
But that's going to be too late, isn't it? I don't know how this works. When do you have a written transcript?
It will be within 24 hours of the
Oh,
meeting,
so
but
in
yeah.
this meeting, I don't know what she said.
Are you here to speak on this item?
Yeah, I'm the guy
Okay.
next door.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay, well, we'll have a call to the public here.
no,
No.
well, he gets,
Yeah, you'll get an opportunity.
he'll get an opportunity to speak. He already had 10 minutes. He has 5 minutes to speak.
Yes.
And then Ms. Marino has 5 more minutes to rebut or agree with whatever.
Oh, okay.
But now it's discussion. If you have any questions with Ms. Marino.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. And do you have any questions? Now is the time where
Yeah.
you can address me or the applicant if the board has any questions.
Learn yourself. Are any of the other neighbors opposed to this?
We can go to what we have for the agenda.
Letters for and against. I assume it was posted okay. And
My
I believe-
understanding, we have Mr. Siegel here, who's in opposition, who wrote a letter. We have the other neighbor that you were at their property, who said he welcomed the building and would collect the rainwater from it to water his garden. Is that
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, so the only written documentation I have is from you, and this is the letter. It was attached to the agenda. And once they're done with the questions, it'll be your turn to address the board for up to 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So this is the only written communication I received regarding this request.
You can't read.
But we did receive it in an email. I've read it. I've
Oh.
read it, and we have it right
Oh.
here.
Right. It's not so easy on the screen, but they can, yeah.
That just looks like a blur to me. But-
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Okay, fine, that's fine.
yeah, let's see here. Yeah, and so we're able to pull it up here
Uh-huh.
on these pads and
Okay.
read through it. So
And you can read all the text.
yeah,
Yeah.
read all your notes on here. Yeah,
Okay.
everything, and yeah, I think that probably, I don't know if it was done in pencil or pen or how it was done, but it did. You were able to read it. Yes.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Okay. Are there any other comments,
Any
discussion?
Or questions?
I have none.
Okay.
Give it to Mr. Siegel to speak.
I guess just one question I have just to clarify, and this goes back to the overview that we had that you provided. Looking at this neighborhood or that section of that neighborhood, there's probably 20, 30 parcels on it. Is that about right here?
Mhm.
So looking at this parcel here, when we look at what you can see is rooftop, well, like you said, there's a house straddling the property line up there on the top. And all these other, not just structures, these are houses that are actually built right up to the property line. Is that my understanding from, I mean, this is a Google Earth picture?
Mhm.
Okay. That's it. I just wanted to clarify that, and just from what I'm seeing there.
Mhm.
Okay. Would you like to give?
Okay, well, I didn't know I was gonna have to speak because
And you don't have to.
this is all
Yeah.
my
don't have
thoughts
to,
right
you don't
here.
want to.
Okay.
And in fact, what he just said corroborates my third point, which it demonstrates that the law apparently has no teeth because there are many places, many houses that are built right on the properties. So I don't know what the law is for. Also, if I could, you mentioned that new buildings they're doing is 5 feet from the, but it's not 5 feet. I mean, I live there. It's inches. It's almost against the fence on both sides. So I don't want to repeat myself because it's all here. I just find this very upsetting. One of their arguments is that, well, my house is so far away. Why should it bother me? It bothers me because it's 20 feet closer than it should be. And one of the reasons I bought a piece of property that size is to have everybody else as far away from me as possible.
Which
And that's not happening.
parcel is yours on this?
I don't know which way that thing is turned.
So north is up. And
Uh,
this is,
So he's-
this is the property.
Yeah.
So are you this one?
Yes.
This one? Okay. Just
See, you
that-
can
just
see
that.
that mine is
Okay.
in
So this is
Right
your
where I have
property
the
and this is the,
This is the subject property. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. And the one photo I showed from the rear was
Is
taken from
from his-
this property right here.
oh, okay.
And Mr. Siegel's property is which one? I'm
Is
sorry.
this one directly
Okay,
to the
okay,
south.
got it.
So I don't know. Am I supposed to reiterate what's
So
on?
you have 2 more minutes and you're welcome to say whichever.
Well, I don't know, it just seems, it's all very casual to me, whereas if I were on the other side of this fence, so to speak, politically, I would say, I would take this, in other words, to completely ignore the setback requirement, build something, and then say, oops, could you give me a variance? I don't know, I wasn't thinking. That, I mean, that's, what kind of, you know,
No, that's exactly what the Board of Adjustment is.
what?
So that if you get in that situation,
Uh,
you can come here and plead your case to,
But how could you plead that so their plea is, well, there's an existing slab there, so they're putting the building there. Is that their whole argument? I couldn't hear most of what she said.
yeah, there was a.
I think, yeah, initially
So
that
you
was
could
the
have built
rationale for why they picked that
metal
particular
building on top of
location.
it.
Well, I appreciate that, but I don't, it doesn't mean much to me. I don't think that should give someone the right to convert the setback from 20 feet to 0. You know, I mean, I don't have any immediate plans, this is on here, but to sell the parcel, a parcel of mine
What
that's
is this
next to
building
theirs.
here?
Huh?
What is this building right here? What is
Well,
this-
I use it for a shop, and it is more than 20 feet. I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Well,
It's right on the property.
I
line.
live there.
Hmm?
I live there. It's nowhere near the property line. That's,
Okay.
if that's a building in the corner, that's just simply incorrect. I don't know how it could be incorrect. Probably a photograph, right?
Yeah.
An aerial
Maybe
photograph.
I think what it is probably where the property line lies and maybe what the interpretation of,
Width of the property.
yeah.
I don't- I'm assuming that all the property lines are where the fences are.
Not necessarily, no.
Correct.
Not in Cochise County, no.
Oh my
I
God.
have the
Okay,
same
because
problem.
this build, I checked this, and this building that building is, I'm doing this by memory, but I'm going to say it's at least 20 feet from both of those property lines in the corner there.
Is that a road that's directly on the bottom of that? Christine?
It's not, it's an easement and
Okay.
there's actually, it's a dead end, like
Okay.
it dead ends each of
But
these streets.
that's an easement. But the
Mhm.
property line is where it's shown here in red.
But it
Right.
appears that it's down below,
Yeah,
like 2 inches below it.
But yeah, when you have an easement though, that's, yes, it's part of your,
Property.
but it's not where your property line lies because you can't develop anything on it.
That's, see, this building is about the same distance from this property line as it shows from the other property line. So why it looks like that on a photograph, I have no idea. But I live there and I know where the thing is. So anyway, I didn't know we were here to discuss my, anyway, let's see what else. I just think that for somebody to be allowed to apply for a variance after they build the thing is, as I said here, it takes the teeth out of the law, and the demonstration of that is that, as you pointed out, there are a lot of many houses there that do that same thing, you know, have something right on the property line, because they know that nothing's going to happen to them. They can do whatever they want. I didn't realize that I was going to be living in this kind of anarchy when I bought this property.
How long ago did you buy this?
20 years. And this building is just going up now. It's probably about 80% or so. I can't say exactly because I haven't actually gone inside. I don't know what's inside. And then there's another one next to it, closer to the street, which I showed on here, but it's smaller. And it's also near the, well, that one is not touching the fence. It's a little bit further.
This one is your property here. Then. This is your property.
Yes, but it goes up to where his property is.
Yeah, it goes from here. here.
Right, that's it, yeah.
That the county's shows their property line like right here. So.
Well, and without a survey and legal
Yes,
description, it can be very difficult, you know?
Do the exact same thing right now.
Yes.
So, Ms. Marino, would you like to? take some
Yeah,
time
it's our chance for, yes,
to
Ms. Marina,
rebuttal?
it's your chance for rebuttal at this
Explain
point.
it, or,
Yes, thank you. I just want to, I know in my original application, I don't have it in front of me, but I did do an aerial and I did estimate the distance between the shed and the surrounding property owners. And I believe the closest neighbor is the one to the east. And he's the one that had mentioned that he was going to benefit from the water. Other than that, to the gentleman that's in the conference room right now, our neighbor, he's over 100 feet. His house is over 100 feet away from our shed. And also, if you look at the aerial where our shed is at and you see the dark green over it, those are his overgrown trees that are on the property that hang on my property that we've had to actually cut because they've fallen on our portable shed. And, you know, we don't mean harm to anyone. We take pride in our home. Our yard is clean. Our our grass is cut. We don't bundle or leave any type of things piled up to avoid snakes piling up or, you know, yeah, we don't mean any harm to anyone. We love where we live. We plan to stay here for many years and raise our children. And I want to thank you for your time.
okay, thank you.
They apply for a permit before they started.
I actually, maybe you can answer that, Ms. Marino. Did you, the question was, did you apply for permits before this was started?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Did she need to?
Yeah.
Yes.
For a
Yeah,
metal shed?
if she had, we would have informed her at that time. Anything over 200 square feet requires a building permit, even without utilities, and we would have informed her it needs to be
How big
further.
is that?
It's 308
Oh,
square feet, so just a little bit over that.
But should the board approve this, they will have to get.
She will still have to get a
Yeah.
building permit, as well as this is within the floodplain, so she will need a floodplain use permit. All this does is authorize her to take those next two steps.
Authorize what?
Her to take the next two steps of applying for a building permit. It does not guarantee she will be able to get a building or a floodplain use permit.
Yeah, it's just funny to me that apply for a building permit after you build it. I can't, I don't know.
any discussion? Questions?
Go ahead.
No, I'm waiting for you.
Oh,
Before I say anything.
yeah, okay. That's any further comments or discussions or questions?
No, with that, if the board has, if there is no further discussion, I can provide my recommendation and a sample motion.
Okay.
Okay. Based on the factors in favor of approval as findings of fact, staff recommends approval of the variance as requested, and I have a sample motion on the slide for your consideration.
What? I'm sorry, maybe my hearing is going, but you were looking that way the whole time, so I didn't hear any of that at all.
Okay. Basically, I read the slide.
Oh,
So
okay, I
yeah,
can read
so right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm going to call for a vote on it.
I get to call for a vote.
Okay.
Our chair has joined us.
I'll call for it, but, do I hear a motion? Any discussion first, but do I hear a motion? You want to?
Okay, I make a motion that we vote on allowing the how long will approve setback to be changed.
Yeah, you can just read that.
Just read that
Okay.
off.
I move to approve docket BAR 2304 Coleman setback located at 2415 South Coleman Street in Bisbee, Arizona. APN 104-39-15AA, granting the variance as requested by the applicant. The factors in favor of approval constituting the finding of fact.
Wait a second.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, first,
What?
any discussion? Do we want to discuss it first?
Not I.
Hmm?
I think we have.
I think we have. I think the it's quite the distance as far as it can get from your house. I don't see where it's bothering you that much physically. So I'm gonna call for the vote. So you're
Wow.
We had a second.
second, all in
All
favor?
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Carry, motion carried.
So nobody addressed what I said about the law having no teeth. It's like you don't care. I don't understand that.
Mr. Siegel, we're not here to make law.
I know,
It's,
but that's what you're doing in effect. You're taking the existing law and making a new law out of it, which you call a variance.
That's been.
So you are,
For
in a
100
way.
and some years.
In a way, you are making a new law. And the new law is you can ignore the old law.
Well, they came to us,
Oh, they did.
well, they had now, and they didn't prior to, obviously.
Okay, that's more than they did for me. In other words, they could have come to me. We knew each other. We know each other.
Okay,
They could have come to me and said, hey, we're thinking of building a storage building, which I don't think that's what it is. But anyway,
what do you think it is?
huh?
What do you think it is?
I don't know. I just know that if it was a storage, it looks way too overdone for a storage building. Overdone in the sense that it's very substantial. And it has, I didn't go over there and walk around it, but I see that it has one large opening on one side that I'm looking at it, of course, at an angle like this, but it looks to me like it could be an opening for a standard 6-foot, half fixed, half sliding glass thing. It's not a door. It's, so I don't know why you would have that in a storage building. But anyway, that's not the
Yes. So,
and the other thing is you mentioned that wall. This is, I thought you said that this is behind that wall, but it's not. It's just behind the fence. The only thing behind that wall is their house. Even the wall itself is 20 feet over. It goes right to the property line instead of stopping 20 feet short. So there are actually 3 things there along that are ignoring the setback. So I feel like it's like I didn't have a chance here.
well, we got to move on, sir.
Yeah,
So,
great. Okay, so we're
thank you
done.
for your input.
We are done.
And
But you can contact me. I'll
Yeah.
give you my card.
is
Like,
Miss
discuss it
Marino,
further.
Christine, is Miss Marino still on the line?
Yes, she is.
Yes, I
So-
am.
Okay, well then, Christine will be contacting you with the results of the thing and probably a letter saying that you can take for your further permits. So thank you for your time and good luck in the future. Okay,
Thank you guys so much. Yes, thank you.
okay,
Oh,
and
Christ.
we can continue on now. And you can stay or leave, whatever you'd like.
Well, what's going on here?
We
I
have
thought
another
were
hearing.
finished.
This is the next
Oh, well,
item.
That's
Yeah.
a different,
A different.
no, I can leave.
case.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Wait.
You said you were going to give me a card.
Yes. Wait for one moment.
Yeah. I hope you appreciate, I don't think I was being rude. I was trying to restrain myself. But if you could put yourself in my shoes, I feel totally railroaded. No one gave me a counter argument to any of my points. Not a word.
Okay, well, we have to move.
Yeah, I know.
We do.
Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot.
Okay, do we close that hearing or?
We close that hearing.
Okay, this hearing is thereby closed and we'll open the next one, variation 23-05, the Staka setback. The applicant initiated variance request, section 70403, setbacks, principal and accessory structures, uses of the zoning regulations. So,
Okay.
you may.
Thank you. Okay, this is item number 2. This is variance 23. Is that working?
How do we get back?
There's a button. Excuse, one moment of mine.
Get everybody back on the same page.
Yeah.
Going on to the next chapter.
And that one's just on the roof.
Thank you.
And this is staff memo application letter, support letter, and opposition staff
How'd you get it?
presentation there.
It just kept going back.
You all set?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. And do you want to introduce the item and then I'll do my presentation?
Okay, I just did.
Okay, sorry. I must miss that. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're ready,
Your-
okay, if you're ready for the staff presentation, this is variance 2305, a Staka setback. This is, again, an application to encroach into the setback of a residential zone property. In this case, it's R36, but still residential zoning. The location is 1332 East Via Estaca Benson, Arizona, APN 123-25002X. The applicant is Mr. Phil Schultz, who is online with us tonight. The variance request is to permit an existing accessory building approximately 9.5 feet from the eastern property line. This would be a 10.5-foot setback reduction requested. Again, the minimum setback in this case is also 20 feet. And again, this is an existing building. This is the site plan. So what you can see in the front is the single family home. And then there's a block wall. I'll show some pictures of the site following this. There was a slab. The applicant enlarged the slab and placed a 1,800 square foot metal building where indicated to the rear of his house. And we're shown on this diagram. There are 8 factors used to evaluate all variance proposals. As submitted, the application, again, complies with 5 factors. It's a permitted use. There are minimal impacts to the surrounding property. It is in general harmony with the zoning regulations. There's not a violation of state or federal law. In terms of degrees of relief, it is an existing building. So if it's permitted by this board, it can remain, and if not, he would need to remove it. It does not comply with being an unnecessary hardship created by zoning. This setback applies to all properties within R36. There aren't any peculiar site conditions that I noted. And again, this was something that I can't say it wasn't self-created. This was applicant initiated. Here are some pictures. On the bottom right, you see the front of the house with a low wall in front. On the bottom left, this is from the adjacent property to the right, might be the west. Yeah, the east. So you can see right here, that's where the building is. This is actually, as I've walked into the yard, looking directly at the building. So you see the slab here. You see the building, it's mostly long and linear. So here is looking at it from the yard itself. So factors in favor of request. This variance request is consistent with 5 of the 8 criteria used by staff to help determine suitability of a given variance request. There are several other examples of large accessory buildings in the neighborhood, some very near property lines. Unlike the last case, where it's kind of an older part of Cochise County, this is actually not very old.
Brand new. It's
Yeah, this is a fairly new
23
area.
years old.
But there are quite a few large accessory buildings in the neighborhood.
On these accessory buildings, like in the last neighborhood where you had the overshot view and there was a lot of them, but they were
Right.
On the
is this
property
the
line.
same situation?
Not as much. Let me see. I have an aerial.
No, this-
It's just because it's a small neighborhood. We're talking about like 8 or 9 houses.
Yeah.
It's a small neighborhood.
There's-
So you can kind of see, yeah, this one right here. You can see the houses, maybe right here. This is pretty close. I mean, stuff is still going up, actually,
Yeah.
right here, and this hasn't even been constructed yet. So it's not quite to the degree of the last one. These are, this is a very nice neighborhood, I will say.
really-
And again, yeah, the property itself, excellent condition. I think you could see from the
Yeah.
photographs.
And these sample pictures there that you just had up, those are in that neighborhood?
Mhm.
Okay.
Virtually on the same street.
This is the same street because there's only like 8 or 9 houses. So, okay. Factors against approving the request. The variance request is not consistent with 3 of the 8 criteria used by staff to help determine suitability of a given variance request. Again, not an unnecessary hardship by zoning. There's no peculiar site conditions, and this is a self-created hardship. Again, here's an aerial. With that, I will pause. We have our applicant online, and Mr. Schultz, if you're ready, feel free to give your presentation.
You have 10 minutes. Tell us all about it.
Sounds like a lot of time to not say much.
It is.
But at any rate, yeah, I constructed this. I'm a retired mechanic, and there was a 30 by 30 existing slab here at the house when I purchased it back in 2020. And because I'm a retired mechanic, I have tools and equipment and whatnot, and I've always dreamed of having a shop with a lift in it. And I thought, well, here's to save me some money, similar to the other lady. I said I can just add a little more slab here and then have somebody come in and build me a building. And so that's what had happened. And when I added the extra concrete, I had requested, I said, well, I'm going to plan to put a lift in, so I want to make sure that we construct this correctly as best we can, so on and so forth. So I hired a company to do that work for me, and they created the slab for me. Then I called this other company to come build the building, and this is all during COVID, and nobody even wanted to come out, all the above. I just kind of like, it's raining, it's monsoon, I want to get this done as soon as possible. My whole garage at the time, because we moved here from Ohio, and my garage was all full of everything. I couldn't put a car in there. In fact, when I'd open my garage door, it was rock solid right up to it. And a bunch of boxes in the house, and I couldn't wait to get this building constructed. So I did that, and then I've just all kinds of extras on the house. I built my wall around my property, and trying to clean up the neighborhood and make it as nice as possible. I brought in 144 tons of rock after I spent 3 months, my sweetheart and I spent 3 months on the property just cleaning up all the tumbleweeds and everything else, because it was pretty ugly. And it was a brand new house. I said, what in the world did we move into, But at any rate, it's taken some time. I've been here 3 years now, next month, and this is something that I said, okay, I've got my wall done, I've got my building in, all the above. I better contact somebody about getting this permitted. And then immediately, Mr. Schultz, you've really opened up a bucket of worms here. And I said, oh, why? What? Well, you built this building right on top of your leach field. And I said, okay, how do I correct it? And so that's how this started. And since then, I have requested a septic repair. permit and got that done. I about fell over for what it cost me, but I said, okay, it's done and it's right and approved and done. So now we're back to the building, and the variance is the next step. And then hopefully after it's approved, again, I looked at all my neighbors that have these buildings, but not even understanding, the setbacks and all the above, because I didn't follow through with that when I first got here. I just wanted to get it done. So yes, I made a mistake, and I'm trying to make that mistake right, and that's why we're here.
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask you. We approve this one, what are we gonna do with the next one?
Same thing. Look at the facts and,
But I mean, are you gonna continue to let them violate the setbacks? That's
Yes.
what, that's.
yeah. Previously, I was on the District 3 Board of Adjustment, and in Cochise County, I'm sure it's a uniform code of zoning or whatever. It says 20 feet. Cochise County, it's totally unrealistic, I think, for,
Like on that property, why is it unrealistic?
no, the rule, the county regulation is unrealistic because so many places are up against the property line, small lots, older lots. You almost have to look at every single case to see what it is, because
I did have some of the same concerns, and I asked those questions, and because you almost get the impression it's, let's build it and without a permit, and then we'll get the variance later, and so you get that impression. But I think there's if we go back to the previous one, Ms. Morano, had we, and I don't think that it was Mr. Siegel. I don't think that he realized that he could need a variance for his building that he has out there. And I think that if we, like you were saying, in Cochise County, you have to look at it case by case. But I think that we could open up a can of worms and spend weeks at a time in here if we went through every property in Cochise County. And one of the big questions I had for the department was, how will these come up? How does this come up? And I'll get back to this gentleman, Mr. Schultz, here in a second with that question. And a lot of times it's there's a complaint. So I believe in Ms. Moreno's case, there was a complaint. Somebody brought a concern to the department and said, hey, this is a violation. Mr. Schultz, with that said, let me ask you a question. If I understood what you were saying, is that you actually, I hate to use the word self-reported, but self-reported this in trying to get a permit to clear up everything? Is that correct?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So, Christine, Mr. Schultz there wasn't a complaint in his case. He actually,
In his case, yeah, it was the septic.
okay.
And yeah, and once he realized he had a septic issue, then he realized he had a setback issue because he had to come to us. But in a lot of cases, people, they don't even know where their property lines are, not without a survey. If they're just looking at
but
fences.
Mr. Siegel did not know where his property line is. He's assuming it was off farther than it really was.
Yeah, and that I've run into this case on a commercial property the people had an alleyway and they're thinking that whole alleyway is theirs, and I'm like, guys, that's not how that works. It's just not how it works.
It is not, yeah. So they're a little different. One was there was a complaint and code enforcement, and so this variance request is needed to clear that up. In this case, there wasn't.
And
There's
also,
not.
John, I think it's my understanding due to staffing shortages that I don't think the department goes out looking for violations unless someone
Makes a
complains.
complaint,
Yeah, and then
What's
they
the
have,
complaint?
on this one, there
Yeah.
was. But on this particular one, Estaca was, he turned himself up.
Self-reported.
Yeah,
What were you gonna say?
I was just say I really from reading through the information that was emailed to us, and that was a question that I had, and I showed up here way earlier than I should, but I was able to talk to the folks about that and get some clarification. But and I do think it is unfortunate in Cochise County, and maybe you're right that 20 foot. I mean, on some of these properties, some of them are pretty. They may not be.
There are some zoning
but-
districts, like the really small ones, the
Yeah.
MH 72, where the setback is a little different. You
Yeah.
do have 7.5,
But
some
in
are
this
7.5,
whole
but
area where he is, where I live,
Yeah.
they're right up to the property lines. They're the 20, and it's an older town too. It's a lot older, but some of those have been in before the zoning regulations
Yeah.
in 76.
And I don't know what the answer is to that, because I guess you could just get people who would just say, well, you know what, I'm going to do it, and I'll try to get a variance later. But I think,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
but I think it is, as you were saying, a case by case, and you just sort of look at the facts for what they are, and me personally, I don't like to get involved in neighbor disputes and from any kind of.
But John, I've been doing this on the Board of Adjustment for quite a few years, and we don't get very many. Not over the years. This is, unless you have a nosy neighbor that's reporting well, yeah. But in some sites, we had somewhere, one old lady was complaining about everybody in the whole neighborhood. And she was just a complainer, had too much time on her hands. So it has not been, I would say in the last 20 years, has not been a major problem. We don't have that many. We've not had that many, at least in District 3, come through. So people do that, and I myself did that 40 years ago. That's the statute of limitations is run out. So.
Well, they have
But I-
a code then.
Hmm?
Did they have a code then?
Yeah, it was fairly new then, but I had to go through all this rigmarole to get my, in the,
Less.
yeah. So, anyway.
Okay.
Okay, do we have anyone, I
I
see a,
don't think
for
we
me,
have,
is there-
that's our deputy attorney,
Oh,
so
okay,
he is not here
So
to speak
there
on
was a letter
either.
in support and a letter in opposition.
Correct. Yeah.
let's see, who's supporting?
That was in support of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty brief,
Yeah. 8 words.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so
Yeah, that's Rachel Huber had written in support, and
where does she live? You know,
She will be within 300 feet. So
So
that is, I don't know why this is not coming up
She on the
larger.
next property.
She would
Yeah,
be
have to be-
probably, yeah, within,
well, I'm more concerned about the property on the east side.
mhm.
How do I get back? Oh, okay.
Tappet and Carroll.
Oh, okay. Let's see the letter in opposition.
Yeah, the Caspers live to the east of me, and Rachel's kind of across the street and down one house further to the west.
That's an opposition. Here you go.
Yeah, Shannon and Jennifer, I know them. They don't even live close by this. This is mile and a half down the road.
This,
In opposition,
the opposition party?
a
Yeah.
mile and a half down.
Yeah.
What I'm coming up is maybe
Seems like
this
he
one.
owns a lot there, but he owns,
Okay.
his home is way up here.
Okay. Well, they might have,
They might have.
yeah, what they've listed as their parcel number is this one, which is the church property. And they did receive a notice from me.
Where the arrow is?
Yeah.
Yeah, the church is.
It's at the end of the street, right on.
At the very.
Yeah.
That's the church.
On
And
Palmer.
where's Mr. Schultz's property?
Mr. Schultz is right
Right.
here.
Okay.
So Shannon is doing that on behalf of the church. Not his own, but it's not Harmon, I don't think, but anyway. So
And
nobody is here to,
it doesn't sound like we
the
have any,
support?
yeah.
any questions?
I'll give mine answered.
Okay, all right, I can give the recommendation and sample motion if you're ready.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Based on the factors in favor of approval, as findings of fact, staff recommends approval of the variance as requested, and I have a sample motion on the slide for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve docket variance 2305, Estaca setback 1332 east via Estaca, Benson, Arizona, APN 123-25-002X. Granting the variance as requested by the applicant, the factors in favor of approval constituting the findings of fact.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? No discussion?
I think you already had.
Yeah. Okay, let's vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. And that would be, that's a big building. If you had to move that, that would be a major, major project. But it fits in beautifully with the neighborhood. The pictures, the pictures have showed it, but it doesn't really do justice. It's a very upscale neighborhood, and the paint blends in with everything. And there are plenty other buildings, similar buildings around. And I think it'll be an asset to the neighborhood rather than a detriment.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you. Is he still
Well, I
online?
thank you all.
Okay.
All right,
And-
yeah,
and-
congratulations. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you now.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing here. He has to go now and get the permit. Well, go through the process, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question. You keep letting this happen, what? We just deal with one at a time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But-
quasi judicial,
but-
so you're applying a standard to a specific property,
A
so.
few years ago in Sunsites, the church in Sunsites bought a $20,000 sign in front of their lighted sign. Somebody complained. Well, maybe it was the zoning inspector complained because Cochise County had a regulation that said the sign could not change only once per hour. You couldn't have a moving sign. And the regulations said once per hour. And that's what they came in. And they were saying, well, I asked, what's the basis? Well, it could cause accidents, distract drivers. And I said, in downtown Benson, there's one that's going like this. There are a whole pile of cars. Out on I-10, there's flashing signs everywhere. There's not a, so the county regulation is wrong. And they eventually did change the county regulations to approve those signs when originally, when the county doesn't write all their own regulations, they adopt
From other
the
towns?
uniform, not from other towns,
No,
there's
yeah.
a uniform,
Regulation.
yeah, from everybody in the whole country. So Cochise County is a lot different than Sierra Vista or Tucson or Phoenix or New York City. So we have to do things that help the people.
Sure.
Our job, I think, is to help the people more
Oh,
than
yeah.
to be the meanie government.
Like I was saying, I just think that, we'll use Ms. Moreno's as the example. We say we don't grant that variance. Then she has to knock down her building. Well, then she's gonna come back here next month and say, hey, Mr. Siegel has his right up on the property line, and you guys need to enforce it the same way.
Yeah.
And then, and it just snowballs. And when you look at that,
Existing, man.
yeah, yes. And you look at that neighborhood, And all of a sudden, we're sitting here doing 30, 40 of these, destroying the neighborhood. Everybody's tearing down their buildings.
Oh, God.
And then you go, well, what the hell did we just do? So it's, I guess, the lesser of the two evils
Yeah,
is really what it
you're
is.
right.
But, we had one out here in Hereford, and there was some folks that had moved in, and they had moved in from California, and they were pissed about a building that was on, or actually it was a tit for tat is what it was. They were complaining about these people. They had horses and stuff, and they were like an animal rescue, and they were complaining about the smells and the this, and the pens were too close to the property line. And so then these people turned around and said, well, hey, their building is too close to the property line. So and then it was, I mean, this is back before we were doing it like this. This was just in District 1. And, there was people for and people for against. And yeah, I mean, you end up with 20 people and they're all, who gives a crap about the building? And that was one thing I told them at when we had that meeting. It's like, hey, you guys are going to be neighbors for a long time. You better figure out how to get along.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be up to us to decide that for you. Because it can't be a tit for tat. Well, you move your chicken pens, and well, now you move your building, and now you're this and that.
What happened?
We granted the variance for those people's building because they had a big building, a barn that they had put up. The people that actually had started with complaining about the animals, and we ended up granting the variance. I voted not to grant it just because it was just, I mean, it was crazy in there. And you could see what was happening. It was just, they were doing there, and they said, hey, well, when we have to smell their, it's like, well, you do realize you moved to a rural part of Arizona. I mean, I'm sorry.
Oh, God, they don't think all that, though.
No, and really them moving their pens, their animal pens, an extra 10 feet, that wasn't going to change
Doesn't make
anything
any
else.
difference.
It ain't going to change the site. It ain't going to change anything. It is what it is. But you chose to be in a rural part of Arizona. I can't change that for you. And but yeah, those people, and after they had raised all the hell with the people with the rescue, the people from the rescue said, well, hey, they built their barn too close to the property line, and that's how we ended up in a deal, And then they had to come in for a variance, and and yeah, that was going to be, I mean, huge barn that they had built, I mean, it would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars to tear it down. But what would you have done if they didn't get the variance? You would have had to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, your neighbors figure it out.
Well, your neighbor, that's
Yeah.
That's key.
that's the key.
Okay. We can close that hearing.
Oh,
and
we can.
then we can have a planning director's report.
So we do have another item.
Tonight?
No,
Oh.
no. Actually, I guess for next month. And so this month
This is
we,
July's meeting, actually, isn't it?
yeah, well, I knew there was going to be a conflict with like the 4th of July. So
That's why you moved it up.
yeah. So in terms of when we want to hold the next hearing, does it work better to do it? Well, July has 5 Wednesdays. I was thinking the 26th of July for the next. We have one for sure. It's already a variance application and possibly one other.
The 25th,
26th.
26th,
Yeah.
20th July.
Yep. So last Wednesday of July. Does that work for you guys?
For me.
Yeah.
In the middle of July, I'll be in San Diego, but no,
Okay.
26, I'm good.
Excellent. Okay.
In August, have you got that?
Nothing yet, but it seems we're getting a little more variance cases lately. But if this generally works for you, like the last Wednesday of the month, I'll try to keep it.
Okay, because I'll be
that.
on the middle of August,
Okay. All right.
a couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I'll just kind of keep it on that schedule then, so people know what to expect when we get an application.
okay.
And yeah, that's it.
What are those
Um,
generally?
I believe the one we've received is another setback.
Where?
I don't know. I haven't gotten to it yet.
It's gonna be Mr. Siegel's house. Tim Moreno's
30 minutes.
turned him in, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll look into it. I'll
Okay.
get back to you on that. And then the other one, I don't know. They might try to do a lot modification. I'm not sure. It would be setback though, if it does come in.
Good.
Commercial.
Okay. That it?
Yeah,
No,
I
we have
think
a-
that's, if there's any
what-
recent
what-
matters,
what-
yeah, that's the
what-
entire report. I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware.
What's
One
the
more meeting.
Supervisor, planning and zoning.
Planning and Zoning Commission meets on the, let's see, they're coming up on July 12th. They have a special use application for, actually it's a modification for a large solar farm off I-10 near Wilcox, between the Haskell and 191. It's very large. It's over 3,000 acres. It's very large. Yeah, and
Sulphur Springs, or is that a private company?
they're gonna TEP. And this is a modification. They were granted the special use authorization a couple months ago. They're, for this application, they're adding an additional 640 acres. And so that's the modification. We have a rezoning request in the Douglas area. It's going, they're requesting to go from RU10 to RU4. It's adjacent to another RU4 district. And then we have one, actually a comp plan amendment / rezoning. It's for a parcel. It's the parcel at Hereford and Mosen on the northeast side. It's a 13-acre parcel. And right now, like everything else in the area, it's zoned RU4 rural, and they're requesting to go to general business. And so that would require a comp plan amendment as well. So that goes before Planning and Zoning Commission and then Board of Supervisors. So that one's kind of interesting. We'll see. We don't get a whole bunch of zonings, especially to commercial.
That's on 92 and Hereford Road.
That's on Hereford and Mosen.
Also. Oh, wow.
Which is across the road or the east or
I can show
west
it.
side of?
It
Oh.
is, I'll get there right now.
What do they want to put in there?
Commercial. He
Loves truck stop.
he's open to conditional zoning, which would limit general business is pretty permissive, which is a consideration, limiting it to about 19 of the permitted principal uses. Anything, he's maybe a convenience store, a little gas station. There. Right here. So here's Hereford.
It's probably not a bad idea out in Hereford Road and Mosen.
It's not, we're doing a roadway, so it's this parcel right there. You can see Mosen. And what, like, this is a really large parcel. This is a really large parcel.
I thought those were BLM, weren't they?
That's, the 4,000 acres that I can't, that should forget. They've ranched that for 100 years.
But actually, these are privately. There is BLM and stuff in the area.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They rent BLM land. I don't know if that is particular BLM, but I know they have a lot of land of their own.
BLM
Yeah.
right here.
Ogoric. It's Ogoric's.
Hmm.
And there's only one left. I don't know what'll happen to that one in ties.
So yeah, 1,100.
Not-
And this is 800 acres. And yeah, and this is the parcel itself.
That's on the north side of Hereford.
Northeast corner.
And so those are the 3 dockets going to planning and zoning.
I used to own land out in there. on Pintec Lane.
Yeah, there's that's what I figured right over here.
I put in the road there, when I bought that property from an older gentleman from LA, there was literally nothing. I'm talking nothing. I bulldozed the road in, fenced it off, and I rented land to, who's in the pyramid? Tenneco Land and Cattle Company. They were running, I don't know how many head of cattle, and I sold the water.
All right.
So they didn't have to go to the
Yeah.
river.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking
Mhm.
Yeah.
weight on the cow, you know? So I had a good deal on that deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, that whole area out there, Hereford, Polygon, this issue is blowing up so much.
No.
I tell people, when I was a kid, we would go up in the, up Clark Canyon or something and picnic and you'd look out there and it's just black.
Yeah.
And we'd come down, it'd be dark, it'd just be black. Or, one or two, a few lights out there. Now you go up there and you do the same thing. It looks like a city.
That's
I
right.
know.
It is. Our little county is blown up. That's for sure. And the people keep coming.
Yeah.
No.
It's paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
didn't
wonder-
see it get that way, but on the other hand, I made money. by
Yeah,
getting that way.
Well, that's the thing, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You want to see the growth. At the same time, you go, what the hell? This ain't the same place it was 30 years ago, You want to see the growth. Of course, you welcome the growth, but yeah, it is interesting. And you get a lot of folks from a lot of different places. This gentleman came out from Ohio, so that was good.
Mhm.
But I mean, most of the time, you get a lot of folks from the West Coast coming out here.
I know.
There was I was talking to a realtor, that's probably a couple of years ago, and she said I've sold 10 houses here recently. 9 of them went to people from California. I'm like, Jesus, that's
Well, they got money.
But
that's the
that's it.
key. And I get them as customers. I mean, I'm not complaining that you get some of these folks, and I've talked to them, and they're like, man, we sold our house. I'm retired, sold my house out in California, came out here, bought a 36-acre ranchette, bought new cars for the wife and I, got an RV, and we're hitting the road, it's just,
The wife of a coworker lives up in Prescott, and she's in real estate. And this was 2 years ago, I think. Their real estate company sold 300 houses in Prescott Valley. Every one of them to California person.
and a lot of them are, they come in, they're cash buyers.
Well, yeah.
Sold their house.
$1 million
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
And over here,
Yeah.
free.
I had a fourplex up in Prescott Valley
Mhm.
on the country club there.
Oh, that's where my friends live.
Yeah. And I did rather well on it. And now I go, wow, I should have kept it,
Yeah.
but then you're a landlord, and that is the fix.
Yes.
Oh,
Anyway,
And being that
Okay.
far away to have to take care of.
so,
I live that now. I have a place up in Alpine. I have a business up there, and God, man,
what was it?
it's the Alpine Garage.
Oh,
I bought the Alpine Garage back a couple years ago,